No, the trip out here was perfect. We left like 11 o'clock at night. It's the best flight because I leave at 11 from California, and I'm here by 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm having breakfast with my grandkid by 7. No, it was really great. And the weather, too, the weather's been great. Yeah, it's cold. It's cold for everybody, but it's not snowing, it's not icy, so, yeah. No, I got the credentials. When I came in, everything was ready. Yeah, and you got a lot of guys. You got 350 vendors in here. I can only imagine when the people start rolling in. All right. No, we're about to start recording, okay? I'll talk to you guys later. Let's get down to the starting line, and I'll tell you what you're going to see on tonight's show. And the next time, try this segment. We've got a great video from Fritz Gunther in the Moto Showcase tonight, a 1985 KX125 sent in from the Lucas family. We've also got a Here's the Problem segment where we'll take a look at some of your questions. What's it worth? We've got a 1976 Suzuki RM125. We've got all that and a whole lot more coming up on Vintage Motocross Q&A. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. I'm your host, Joe Abadi, and we are coming to you from the York Swap Meet in York, Pennsylvania. It's incredible. There are over 350 vendors here, and you're going to see a lot of things throughout the show and throughout the weekend. As always, I want to thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Susie, and my friend Rich Vasallo, who's helped me with the camera work tonight. Don't forget to keep sharing the show. Whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube, share the show, and we will have a random share giveaway winner coming up on Thursday, just like we normally do. We'll give you a nice sticker sheet, compliments of vinco.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is going really, really well. We've got all of our videos on there, including all of our interviews. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And don't forget, the pros are doing it how? That's right. They're watching it on their big screen TV. They're commenting through their phone, and that's how they're enjoying Vintage Motocross Q&A. I want to thank all of our sponsors, Motion Pro, Vinco, Preston Petty. In fact, Paul Stainard will be here with us in a little while from Preston Petty Products. Racer X Full Circle Racing. I want to thank Northwest Mako CZ Bills Pipes, and of course, Sunrise Vapor Blasting. In the next time, try this segment tonight. We've got a great video sent in to us by Fritz Gunther. For you Mako guys, listen closely.
Hey guys, when you have the clutch basket off of your Magnum Series Mako engine, one of the things you want to take a close look at is back of the clutch basket. This is your kickstart ratchet gear, and it's riveted to the clutch basket. Now, as these rivets, they get loose, and eventually what you'll find is one of them on your magnetic drain plug, or more of them. So what we're going to do here is we're going to try and go in and reset the rivets, and then we'll put 3 equally spaced TIG tacks around the plate to help hold it on. So one of the things you definitely want to check when you have your clutch basket off. Here's the C-frame riveter. It's an aircraft tool, but it works great for the Mako clutches. And you got the piece right here that's for the rivet head, and then just a flat button here to set the shop head. And we got these to tighten up, so we'll just put a little TIG tack weld on them for a little security, and good to go. Okay, as you can see, we got 3 equally spaced little TIG tack welds on that Magnum Series kick ratchet. That'll help relieve a little bit of the strain on the rivets. Act as kind of a safety. So, good tip to always do. See ya.
Tonight's special from Vinco. The air shocks are out there. People are talking about it. They're $795.95. They come in all popular sizes from 13.5 inch up to 17.5 inch. They are assembled in the USA. These are exact replicas of that famous air shock that was popular in the 70s. In fact, all the parts are interchangeable. Absolutely beautiful. They come assembled. All you have to do is add air or nitrogen. Get a hold of them at vinco.com. In the Moto Showcase tonight, we take a look at a 1985 Kawasaki KX125 that was sent in to us by Brett Lucas. And if that name Lucas sounds familiar to you, it's because the last 3 weeks on the show, we've had somebody from the Lucas family actually send in a bike for the Moto Showcase. So I'm going to read to you about this beautiful little KX that Brett has sent in. Jordan's going to go through the slides and we'll all get a good look at it. Another bike from the Lucas family, my 1984 KX125. This build started out life as a rough but low-hour bike. I stripped the bike, powder coated the frame, cleaned it absolutely clean. Every piece was added was almost new, including the seat, which I actually found an NOS one, including an NOS tank. I recently added a Pro Circuit pipe. There's an NOS throttle assembly from North Texas Cycle. A beautiful plastic from Nightmare Racing, my good friend Mark Hildebrand. We got Michelin tires on it. Joe, I love your show. Thank you for putting our show on it, and we hope you have a great time this week at the York Swap Meet. Yeah, and he wants to give a shout out to, of course, everyone in his family, and if you're watching this show on Facebook or YouTube, go out and check out the Lucas family, the Lucas family collection on Facebook. They got a lot of great bikes over there. Thanks, Brett Lucas, and all the Lucas family for giving your bikes to us to present here on Vintage Motocross Q&A. Oh, and speaking of Preston Petty, they have a great special going on this week. They've got 2 Mutter fenders and a set of GP grips, just $115.95. That's Preston Petty products. And don't forget, Preston Petty is still looking for distributors. So get a hold of Paul Standard at Preston Petty Products if you have a retail outlet or you sell things online. Either way, get a hold of Paul Standard, become a dealer for Preston Petty Products. In the Here's the Problem segment tonight, we have a couple of different questions that were sent in from a few guys, and this is always my favorite part of the show. So let's get to the first question. It is from Bud Sexton. Will installing a stock sleeve into my 1977 Honda CR125, which is extensively ported, return it to the stock porting? No, it will not, because what happens is many times people will raise or lower the intake or the exhaust port. So you putting a sleeve in that cylinder may return that to stock. So yes, that would kind of work. But when the transfer ports are opened up during someone porting the bike, putting a sleeve back in there is going to make it even worse, okay? Because they're not going to be matched, and the ports in your sleeve are going to be smaller than the ports in your actual cylinder, and it's going to cause quite a bit of a problem. But I think the best thing to do at that point would be to go out and look for another cylinder from a 77 or a 78 Honda CR125, and you should start over from there. But yeah, Vinco does have sleeves, but it really wouldn't be applicable in that situation. But thanks for the question, Bud. Let's go on to the next one. It comes from Jeff Galvin. Jeff says or asks, what's the recommended amount of fork oil in a 1974 Honda CR250? Also, what weight would you recommend? What I would recommend you do is to get yourself a manual. Get a manual for your bike, and you'll know about that. Now, on the screen here, we do show how many ounces of oil do go in your forks. And as far as what the viscosity is or what the weight is, that would depend on how much you weigh and your riding conditions. But get yourself a manual, and on the screen, you'll see there exactly how many ounces of fluid go in your forks. Chef Galvin, thanks for the question. I'm only teasing you a little bit about the manual, but you should get one. It would be a big help to so many people who have questions for us. But thanks for that question anyway.
I'm Brock Glover, and you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Jeff with Motion Pro, introducing you to the Masterlink Press Tool. Now, the Masterlink Press Tool is an innovative addition to our wide variety of chain tools here at Motion Pro, and what makes this tool so unique is that it both presses on and presses off Masterlink side plates. It's designed to be used with all 50 series clip style links and performs the job very easily. The Masterlink Press Tool is constructed with a billet aluminum body and hardened steel pins for long-lasting durability. It's affordably priced at $28.99 and is available from your favorite dealers nationwide.
We're at the York Swap Meet in York, Pennsylvania, and I wanted to give you an idea of what you can expect if you ever attend this great event. There was a wide variety of vintage bikes, including street, trials, dual sport, enduros, motocross, and minis. Vendor tables were sold out, with over 370 sellers packing the building with a variety of parts. The Potomac Vintage Riders had a great display, and the Penton Motorcycle Group, well, they had some bikes here that would truly blow your hair back. In the bike show, there was vintage MX bikes, street bikes, customs, three-wheelers. There was just about something for every vintage motorcycle enthusiast, including a very rare 1937 Scott Flying Squirrel, a two-cylinder, liquid-cooled, two-stroke rotary valve bike. Absolutely unbelievable. There were Wankels, a Jones Ice-Low, incredible Makos, and just about every manufacturer you can think of was represented. The York Fairground facility is really a first-class operation. It's well-lit, it's warm, it's spacious. It's just an inviting place for the whole family, and they've got a food court as well. I'd like to thank Bill Nazelrod, Mike Slate, Tom Grimmel, and everyone at the Potomac Vintage Riders for hosting such an amazing event. I'm really looking forward to coming back next year. In the What's It Worth segment tonight, we're going to take a look at a 1976 Suzuki RM125. This little segment tonight is a little more interesting to me because the bike was restored or rebuilt by my friend Charlie Amata. It is a Northern California bike. It did have a Northern California buyer and seller. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the bike as Jordan goes through the slides. And then, of course, this is the segment of the show where I encourage you, the viewers at home, to guess how much you think this bike recently sold for. Okay? So, here we go, 1976 Suzuki RM125. I got the bike. It was not really running. It seemed to have a transmission problem. I split the cases while I was in there. I also did all the bearings and the seals. I put a new seat cover on it. I did do a powder coating on the frame. It does have the original wheels. They were polished. I put everything back together and the bike started up and ran perfectly. The shocks actually had good dampening and good rebound. The forks that were resealed. I put all the bike back together, and the only thing that I did not do, which looks very, very original on the bike, was repaint the tank. But as you can see, the bike does look very original. It runs perfectly, and the bike sold within a day. Now, how much do you think that bike sold for? $2,500? $4,500. That bike sold for $3,500. It was a beautiful little piece. I saw the bike myself, and well, I think we actually have a video of the bike running. The What's It Worth segment is, of course, brought to you by Full Circle Racing. Don't forget to get a hold of Tom McAllister at Full Circle Racing. He's still running that great special on powder coating hubs, either in satin black or gloss black. Full Circle Racing, whether it's on-road or off, vintage or modern, get a hold of Tom McAllister at Full Circle Racing, your one-stop shop for all your wheel needs. Thanks, Tom. This is the Did You Know segment of the show. Nice little segment I like to bring to you to maybe bring you a little bit deeper into the motocross and vintage motocross world. And I like to start off with Did You Know? Did you know, or did you know who Valentino Ribbi was? Valentino Ribbi. We're going to go through the slides and I'm going to explain to you a little bit about this set of forks and how it all came about. Now, if you look at some of the first slides, you're going to see a picture of a Greaves and a DKW. They were bikes that came from England. And many of them came with a set of Earl's forks on the end. Those forks, of course, have the shocks on it. It looks a little like a swing arm on the front of the bike. Well, as time went on and the suspension got so much longer on bikes, a gentleman named Valentino Ribbi, an Italian designer, very, very brilliant man, a very, very wealthy man, took an interest in the suspension on the longer travel bikes. And around 1979, he came up with something that was really liked by Roger DeCoster, the man himself. And in some of the Grand Prix, you can see Roger running his work Suzuki with a Ribbi front end on it. And it does work very, very much like the Earl's front end, but it doesn't change the geometry of the bike. The wheel swings in a much straighter arc. It doesn't change the geometry of the much, much longer travel bikes. Roger did use it, and he did have some success with it in the GPs that year. Now, upon Roger's leaving Suzuki and going over to Honda, he took the Ribbi idea with him. But Honda did test it out on some of their works bikes, but they felt it was a little bit too complicated to actually put into production. They did use it on some tests. They found it to be very, very successful. They even modified it and made it with a single shock on top. But it never really went in production. It never came out on any bike that we've ever seen in a showroom floor. But now you know who Ribbi is the Ribby Fork and who Valentino Ribby was. That segment, of course, is brought to you by Sunrise Vapor Blasting. You've heard me talk about Mark Farriester before. He still does a great job for us, and whether it floats, flies, or rolls, you want to get hold of Mark Farriester at Sunrise Vapor Blasting. He's in Modesto. A lot of guys are just mailing in their parts to him. He has a very fast turnaround time, and his prices are very, very reasonable. Get a hold of Mark Farriester at Sunrise Vapor Blasting. We're going to take a commercial break right now. Don't forget to keep sharing the show. We will have a winner announced on the page on Thursday. Keep sharing the show, and we'll be right back after this word from our sponsor.
Classic and vintage dirt bikes are more than a hobby. It's not just about the ride. It's about the work that goes in. The work that keeps you connected to the ride. It's about bringing the bike back to life and doing it with your own hands. It's about the adrenaline and adventure. And when it comes to putting all the pieces together, only Vinco knows the bikes and parts the way you do. Vinco, keep the ride going.
This Week in Motocross History is brought to you by Racer X Magazine, available on your newsstand now and, of course, available online. Don't forget to see our ad in the back of every issue of Racer X Magazine. 1966, Husqvarna with their first win in the USA. Husqvarna motorcycle won the Swedish brand its first race in the USA at the Imperial Valley Motorcycle Club Hare Scrambles in El Centro, California. 34 riders attacked a 60-mile course at the start of the event, and only half of them managed to finish. At the top of the results, with a 5-minute lead, was Don McCarley, riding a Husqvarna 250cc Works Scrambler. According to an ad in Cycle News, the bikes would soon be available to selected dealers as of March 1st in 1966, and that was Husqvarna's first win, and boy, did they go on to win a lot of races here in America. Let's move on. 1982, it's a first for Holshot Hansen. 36 years ago, well actually it's more like 40 years ago now, the Anaheim Supercross kicked off the 1982 season, and the winner was first-timer Team Honda's Donnie Holshot Hansen. Behind him, 5 of the next 6 riders are all future Supercross champions: Jeff Ward, Johnny O'Mara, Bob Hanna, and Ricky Johnson. The only rider who broke up the lineup of Supercross champions was 4th place Darrell Schultz, who of course went on the next year to win the AMA 500cc National Championship. And that's what happened in MX history 40 years ago, 50 years ago. Well, it's history, and it happened. All right, Jordan, let's get down to the announcements, which the announcements, of course, brought to you by Bill's Pipes. You know, a lot of people contact me during the week about Bill's Pipes, and what I like to tell them is go on Facebook and look at Bill's Pipes Facebook page. You'll find out a lot about the pipes that they make. Also, their contact information is excellent right there. You'll get a quick response from Bill's Pipes over on Facebook. Now, the other announcement, of course, is with the passing, sadly, of Preston Petty last week, there is a memorial planned for late April. It will be put together by Mike Chamberlain, and I have been asked to be the MC of that event. We will be updating you on that, on what date it will actually be and where it will happen. Again, the Preston Petty Memorial will be at the end of April. LTV, that's a channel out in Long Island, out in the Hamptons, and we're now on 2 channels out there. So if anybody's watching from New York or out on the island, be sure to tune in and you can watch Vintage Motocross Q&A on LTV. Thanks everybody there at LTV who helped put that together. Vintage Motocross Radio, we're coming back, and we're coming back strong with an interview with Brian Myerscough early in February. Brian Myerscough, I'm really looking forward to speaking to him, and there is an announcement on the Vintage Motocross Radio page, and I would encourage you, if you have any questions for Brian Myerscough, because there are a lot of Flying Brian fans out there, leave your question on the page, and if I like it, I'll be sure to include it in my interview with Brian Myerscough. That'll be early in February. Don't forget, if you have events, anything coming up, like the York Swap Meet, if you have any events coming up, any races, anything at all, get it to me and I'll be happy to put it on the show. We will also have it on a page that we're involved in, Vintage Motocross Events in the USA. Get it into me and I'll make sure we get it on the page. And just like that, we're down at the finish line. Don't forget to check out Northwest Mako CZ. They're special again this week. Our fork stops for your 68 through 79 Mako. Fits all the models. They're just $10.95. $10.95, get those fork stops fixed. Otherwise, you'll be sending that Mako tank to me to fix it. Vintage Motocross Q&A t-shirts and hoodies are still available in gray and white. They're just $19.99. And this weekend at the York Swap Meet, which is going to be happening just a little while, I'll have some shirts available for sale here as well. Vintage Motocross Q&A sponsorship opportunities are still available. It's not as expensive as you think. We're reaching 20,000 people a week, and we're out on the road. And for all of our sponsors, in fact, you know what? I could even show you what's going on here. Do a little something. All of our sponsors are now on the back of our Vintage Motocross Q&A shirts, okay? So, you become a sponsor, we'll get your name on the shirts. Any events we go to, anything that I am the MC of, I will always mention my sponsors for the show. So, get a hold of me for a sponsorship proposal package. Yeah, that's it for this episode of Vintage Motocross Q&A. I don't have Gino with me, I don't have Rocco with me, so I can't come in, have them come in on the set. But that wraps it up for another episode of Vintage Motocross Q&A. I want to thank my friend Rich Vasallo for running the camera here for us at York today. And yeah, we'll see you next week on Vintage Motocross Q&A.